Well, welcome again to this podcast series on rewirement for success. My name is George. I am a certified transformational trainer. And I want to tell you why I'm doing this podcast, especially now with COVID-19 in the world. For me, 3 years ago, when I was confronted with retirement, yes, retirement, I was terrified. I thought my life was ending. And I needed to understand what this all meant for me. I didn't know where to begin. I discovered how to rewire my thinking, and it has transformed my life. And since then, I've talked with others about my experience, about E plus R equals O, and they said, George, you need to share this material with others right now to help them with what's going on with COVID-19. So the sooner others know this, they can make informed decisions, take control of their life using E plus R equals O. So I totally recommend you don't wait until you're 63 years old like I did. If you have a question for me, you can email me at yourrewirementforsuccess@gmail.com. Or please check out our Facebook page, Your Rewirement for Success. You can leave a question there or a comment. It's always appreciated. This is the 10th podcast in the series. If you send me an email now, I will send you a copy of the e-workbook for this series with practical examples to help you work through learning how to use E plus R equals O in your life. So, what did you notice since you completed the blaming and complaining section of the workbook? Did you pay attention to all the situations where you caught yourself complaining and blaming? One of the most difficult areas of our lives to take 100% responsibility is our relationships. It was important to spend at least a day recognizing situations we complained about before we looked at where we would take more responsibility for the quality of our relationships. So, did you find yourself complaining about any people in your life? Or did you find yourself blaming people in your life for a situation that you are experiencing now? If you think back to podcast 5, we use an example from an individual who was faced with a difficult relationship challenge. Do you remember it? If not, please go back and review the podcast. But the key takeaway the person learned was that their expectations were more likely to change than that their friend was to change. And the only thing they could really control to create a new outcome was the expectations they were putting on their friend. If you recall, the friend owed them money, and they decided that friendship was more important than the friend paying that money back. So when taking 100% responsibility for your relationships, be aware that you cannot force people to change. The only real things that you have control over are your expectations, how you allow people to treat you, your responses to their behaviors, and your boundaries. Today can be difficult, especially if we have a toxic relationship in our lives that we have been unwilling to deal with. Some people are unwilling to change or respect our boundaries. We may be unwilling to change our expectations on how they should treat us. So take a few moments and think about the quality of your relationships and this area of your life in general. Are there specific relationships where you want different outcomes? Is there an area of your relationships you would like to improve? This could be your romantic relationships, your business network, friendships, relationships with parents, siblings, or children. Today, we want to encourage you to commit to 3 or more ways you can take 5% more responsibility for the quality of your relationships over the next year. Now remember to write down your commitments. Writing them down and then even sharing them usually means that the commitment level goes higher. So here's what I want you to write down on a piece of paper. I will commit to taking 5% more responsibility for the quality of my relationships by blank. I will commit to taking 5% more responsibility for the quality of my relationships by blank. One of the things that people talk about often is that, well, relationships are 50%. But that's not always a good idea, because the arguments get into be whose 50% is it anyway? Well, rather than it being a 50-50 relationship, why don't you make it a 100% relationship? And that way, no matter who comes across it, no matter who finds it, you deal with it, and there's no argument, well, whose mess is it anyway? So think about that. It's not 50-50. It's 100-100. You want to make this relationship work. The next podcast that I want you to prepare for is, what are you pretending not to know? So thanks for listening to this podcast today, and I will talk to you the next podcast. Bye for now.